We're here. So the meeting has been called to order. First agenda item is actually selection of a Kota chairperson.
That was an error.
I believe we did that last week, so we can probably fund. Okay. Item 3 would be the public forum. And is there anyone here who wants to speak? That makes it easy. We'll move on to item 4, the approval of the April 6th board meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Any questions, comments? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting, say aye or raise a thumb. You're on mute.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's move on to the fall special grant hearings. Is Heather here yet? Talk about the Octagon, or?
I don't see her on. No, she had indicated she would be joining us, but I don't see her on yet. I'm not sure if she was calling in or going to be here on the video chat.
Okay. Do we have anybody from Story Theater Company? Sue?
I am. Yep.
Okay. You want to give us a little information on your 2 requests here, and then we can ask any questions we might have. Is that all right?
Sure. Yep. I'm going to cover both of them. I'll do one, and then you can ask questions, or I can do them both, however you want to do it.
Well, let's start with You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown.
Okay.
Please.
All righty. So I'm Sue Ann Peters, the treasurer for Story Theater Company. We submitted 2 requests for the fall special grant due to changes in our season after we had submitted our annual grant. So our first grant proposal is for our fall show, which is November 13th through the 22nd. Last month, we chose our shows for Story Theater Company's next season, the upcoming fiscal year. And while we've typically done a play for our fall show at STC's Black Box Theater, we recently selected a musical, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. So when completing the annual grant application budget, we had planned on having a play. A musical was certainly exciting to produce and to participate in, and so we're anticipating increased ticket sales and full audiences, estimated at 600 people for this production. In fact, due to the immense popularity of Charlie Brown, Snoopy, Lucy, and the rest of the Peanuts characters, STC anticipates near capacity or sold out audiences at each of the 6 performances in the fall. The challenge we face is that our production expenses are a little more for a musical because of the performance licensing and music. The other challenge is we have to pay artistic honoraria to a musical director and a choreographer in addition to our typical production staff to produce a musical. So that's the difference between the play and the musical. That's why we've applied for this fall special grant. So children of all ages will look forward to seeing their favorite Peanuts characters brought to life on stage. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown will appeal to many Ames residents and provide many families with an exciting opportunity to experience the dramatic arts. So we are asking that you, Kota, would join with us to help us produce this show. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
I guess I have one.
Okay.
So Troy Rudder, for those. Oh, my name is up there. All right. So the Black Box Theater at STC was always intended to be, like you said in your grant proposal, for either shows that were free or the public domain, like a lot of the teen shows. And so this is something new. And so the Black Box productions were supposed to be fairly financial independent. And so what was your board's reaction? You mentioned in the grant proposal that they wanted to do this show, but what were was it we want to do this show, we need to ask for more money, or was it what was their backup plan, I guess, if this could not be done? Because it seems to me that it would have been in the Arts and Education Committee's interest to weigh that financial decision. So I'm just wondering what
Sure.
the backup plan would be.
Yep, and we did have that discussion because we've typically done a play in the Black Box Theater, and we have always charged admission to the Black Box Theater performances. Basically, they were wanting a chance to do something different because we've done plays several times. We always have a play for the teen show in the winter, and then in the fall we had always done the play. And so prior to our season turning topsy-turvy here with COVID, we were going to flip things and do a play at the auditorium in the fall. Then we were going to do a musical in the Black Box because it was a unique opportunity. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown is more like a cast of 10 to 15 kids. It's a lot smaller cast. You have to do a smaller cast show to be in the Black Box. You can't do. And so the nature of it lent itself well to a Black Box performance. And we said, why not have something that's a well-known show, because we knew we could generate more ticket revenue by doing a musical over a play. And then to do a well-known musical was some of their thinking. And so it basically was just a different budget look than when we had done the annual grant a year ago to turn in for the Kota grant. I don't know. Did that answer your question a little bit? Or okay.
Yeah, I was kind of looking for, like, what was the back? Is there a backup plan? I noticed in your 18-19 or your annual grant report of last year that there is these funds technically available in cash, and so I was just wondering, is that your backup plan to cover that? And
yep, I think that that was what we were thinking, and hoping. So we also, I mean, it's easy on these grant forms to make it look very simplistic, like we form a little budget off of each show for the entire year, but we're also looking at the grand scheme of the season, as STC, as our whole thing. And we were hoping, we had added some workshops to this summer, so we were also hoping to generate more income. Now, again, everything's topsy-turvy because of COVID, but we had added actually a couple weeks onto workshop programming for this summer, and then estimating that balance forward would also help make up the difference.
Okay. Yeah, and the reason why I ask is just for everybody here, let's see, that's the one sheet I didn't pull up. If we were to split fall and spring equally, we don't have as much as we've been requested this fall. And so we're either going to slide that this way or slide that way. And so I just kind of wanted to get a sense of that. So yeah, that helps. Thanks.
Yep. I think we're probably in a more difficult situation of how will that summer workshop programming shake out of going in, but it's making we're not the only ones that's making that a difficult thing of looking for. We're doing the best we can with what we know, and then planning according to what we know. So
okay.
Any other questions for Sue Ann?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we can go ahead and move on to your Cinderella's 67.
Okay. So this one is a little different. There's been some changes since I had filled this out this was a request for our fall show at the city auditorium. And so since submission, we had originally planned for the play 67 Cinderellas at the auditorium, but we didn't foresee at the time we were turning in this grant, we hadn't made the decision or known how everything was going to work out with the schools and with the auditorium. But we ended up canceling our June show, Frozen Junior. So we moved forward with moving and rescheduling Disney's Frozen Junior in place of the fall auditorium play, which was for this grant proposal, October 16th to the 25th. It's the same dates. Again, the expenses are greater for a musical, but our ticket revenue is typically greater as well. So we didn't want to cancel. We had already purchased our scripts and performance license for Frozen and already have those in possession. And we also preferred a delay in our timing over a total cancellation of the show. So for STC, we felt Frozen in the fall would probably be particularly beneficial to provide a more predictable show turnout and ticket revenue at this unstable time with COVID-19 and its lingering effects. But our grant request stays the same. Our auditorium rental is the same as what I had written in the request. It was projected to be $7,500 based on the new rental rate structure, which was established in February with the city council. So when we had budgeted in our annual Kota grant, we had assumed $6,200. We had increased it over and projected based on our previous rate structure. So that still is going to leave us additional $1,300 in auditorium rental expense that we are requesting for this fall special Kota grant. The rental fee is the same whether we perform Frozen or 67 Cinderellas. We're excited to have more than 2,000 in attendance for this lovely arrangement of the beautiful story Frozen. We believe it's important for our community to return to enjoying art like children's live theater can provide. So it's a beneficial outlet for our children actors and dancers and musicians, as well as our audience. To keep with our vision of providing accessibility to theater in our community, STC will give away over 200 tickets for this show to social service agencies, including the Boys and Girls Club, YSS, and Food at First. I also want to note that in our 1920 season, we had decided to add American Sign Language interpreters to our auditorium shows. And we will receive, my understanding based on the city council meeting, we will receive the $334 from the spring special grant that was set aside to help with the ASL for Frozen Junior. So we plan to apply that money to this show and still go as planned using that. So thanks for considering helping us on producing the show and offsetting our costs for Frozen Junior.
So Ann, it says 67 Cinderellas. You're going to do that and Frozen, or are you going to do Frozen instead of it, or?
Correct. We are replacing Frozen with we're replacing 67 Cinderellas with Frozen. And we are not doing 67 Cinderellas in our 2021 season.
And you said you thought you'd have 2,000 in your audience, and it says 1,200 here. Is that because you would be flopping it to Frozen, or?
Yes.
Okay.
We usually in the fall auditorium plays estimate 1,200 to 1,400 people. The musicals are usually 2,000 is about what we planned on. I think when we did Elf Junior, which was a musical in the fall, we had 2,200.
Would that increase your ticket revenue from 9,600 up?
Correct.
That would bring your revenue in line with your expenses then, assuming you had the grant?
No, I had redone the revenue and expenses, and basically the expenses, instead of on 67 Cinderellas, it was about 17,000. It bumps Frozen goes to 24,000.
Okay. And you're still requesting 1,000, or did you say 1,300? From Kota?
Well, I think 1,000 was the max, right?
Yes, that's what I was trying to clarify. Okay.
Yeah. No, I was saying in the proposal, I was trying to say that it was a 1,300 increase in auditorium rental that we did not anticipate or know about. And so the grant request was for 1,000.
Any other questions from anyone?
No.
Brian, to have this resubmitted with frozen in there and the different numbers, or do we accept it this way?
Well, it's really up to you. Sue-Ann did reach out to me and mentioned that the show was going to be different, and I encouraged her to just outline that for you here tonight. If you would like a new submittal, you could ask that. It's up to you. It's your program. So if that's helpful for you in deciding, you could ask for that. Otherwise, if you think you have all your questions answered here tonight, then you could just proceed with the information you've got.
I don't think that I need it for myself, but she answered the questions. I just want to make sure we didn't need to have one on file for the city.
We should probably note it in your final report, at least for this. So.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Sue-Ann? All right, Heather, are you here now from?
Thanks. Sue-Ann.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So depending on what happens this fall with events, we're definitely keeping our eye closely on it. And we have heard that the Iowa Department of Cultural Affairs and the Iowa Arts Council are putting together a task force for special music events and art festivals and fairs throughout the state of Iowa. And they should be starting that here very soon about how to be safe and proceed, or even recommend canceling large events in the state of Iowa. So we're keeping an eye on that, as well as other recommendations from agencies. So if it goes forward, this was going to be our 50th art festival, and we have been in talks with the Public Art Commission about working together for a Chalk the Block event that would be open to the community to participate. You may have seen that we actually were going to try to do that this last September 2019, but then it rained, and so that got canceled. So we thought we'd try it again this next year with them, and we wanted to add something special because of the 50th anniversary, and invite a artist to come work on a large size mural in chalk, while the public could get 4x4 foot size areas on the block to do their own creations over a couple of hours. And there'd be a guest juror, and people could, talk to the artist that's going to be there all day working on the special celebration mural. So it's kind of a simple project, but we thought, what better way to celebrate the festival that brings together all sorts of arts and all sorts of community groups as well. We often work with, of course, like ACAC has a booth there, and some other artistic organizations. We work with local musicians, theater groups as well. So we just thought this is a great way to celebrate not just the Octagon, but also the community and the vast array of creative agencies and groups in our community. So in the grant, we are asking for $750. That would help provide an honorarium for an artist who would be there probably 7 to 8 hours that day working on a large piece. So we've looked at other events, and that's actually on the cheaper end side, but we thought we can get somebody, especially either through the university or within a short distance, so they won't have to drive more than maybe an hour. So I'd love to answer any questions about this proposed project. Anything else that maybe was not clarified in the application process?
Where do you plan to do the mural? Is there a side of a building, or do you have a location?
Oh, great question. We actually we're thinking of, we would kind of leave it up to the artist. They would be welcome to use the surface itself on the street, or if they actually prefer it upright, like if they, for back or any hip, issues, that we would do it upright. And we've actually even reached out to 3M about even getting a large piece of sandpaper that will actually take chalk very well. And so we could apply that to like a 4x8 sheet of plywood, so they could then be upright and work on it. So we'll kind of leave it up to the artist to decide, but we have a backup for either if they want it on the street or if they want it in an upright fashion.
Okay. What about all the participants that would be doing their 4x4 square? Is that on the sidewalk and between the festival and the stores, or on the main street?
Sure. That's a great question. Those would be mapped out on the block that's between Everett's Flowers and the bank there. So it would the Tom Evans would be on the other side. So it'd be great because there's going to be some entertainment groups going on in Tom Evans. So right across that whole block will be the mapped out portions of the chalk from the different community groups.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Heather? Well, thank you, Heather. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Now, Bill, you're here with Town and Gown, aren't you?
That is correct. So,
okay. Get your chance to shine.
Okay. So, I'm presenting our application for additional outreach with the Mayor's Trio. The Mayor's Trio is scheduled to be our opening concert. Our season is not starting until late October this year because out of abundance of caution, we decided to go with the late start. The way we budget is typically in our annual grant request, the funding is supporting for each group that comes in one concert and one outreach. And we found that because of the Mayor's Trio's schedule, they would be available for an additional day. So we are requesting their artist fee for a second outreach. The first outreach is planned to be either at the high school or university level. We would want this second outreach to be somewhere elementary school or middle school, preferably in the Ames School District, if we can schedule it. And of course, since this year is Beethoven's 250th anniversary, it would be a Beethoven program. And so what we're doing is we're requesting funding for the second outreach, and also it's going to require the group to come in for another day. So we're requesting another night of hotel rooms, assuming that we have a football season there. There's a football game that week, so we wouldn't be able to get our usual artist discount. That will be a little bit pricey. And I guess the other thing that we really didn't quite have in mind when we were putting this together is because of COVID-19, certainly performing artists are short of engagements. So we would very much like to support this additional engagement for the Mayor's Trio in addition to our opening concert.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Bill? Well, I think that's it, Bill. Unless there's
Okay, thank you.
Ed. Okay, thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
All right.
Next item on the agenda is update on survey for Kota agencies.
Just so that we can go through next steps regarding these requests, can I just take a moment on that?
Oh, please.
Okay, so all the commissioners should have a spreadsheet with the 4 requests and the amounts, and then your names across the top. There's $3,570 in total requests, and for the fall and for spring next year, you have $5,404. So this is the harder of the two seasonal grants. You have to sort of guess how much you might need to hang on to for the pot of money for spring special project grants. So as you go through, keep that in mind. Plug in your proposed amounts, and then you will, as you complete those spreadsheets, send them to me individually or to Jackie, and we will consolidate them and get you a consolidated spreadsheet that you can have for your next commission meeting as a starting point for your discussion. So we'll see if there's any patterns there of what you'd like to do for the funding. And then the next commission meeting will be when you deliberate and decide the amounts that you want to recommend to the city council. And then we'll take those recommendations to the council, get them approved, write up contracts, and then we're into the grant period. So any questions about that? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I got the information I passed out to everybody a few weeks ago from Steve Sullivan regarding his first pass on the survey for Kota agencies. And we were going to discuss tonight whether we wanted to expand on that to include some impact of COVID information in there, or if we want to hold off for another month or two just to see how everything shakes out. And I guess at this point I need some feedback from the rest of you on that. Natalie, any ideas?
Looks like Deanne wanted to say something. I'm still mulling.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
Deanne, please.
You're muted. Deanne, you're muted. You just muted yourself again, Deanne.
Okay.
Nope, it was on. Now it's off again. There. Nope. Brian, can you do it from your end by chance?
Yeah, Deanne, if you just press and hold the space bar while you're talking, that should do it.
Oh, okay. Does that work?
Yep.
Okay. So was there any decision what to do with the extra money that hadn't been spent for the last, the current funding situation? Remember, it was, are we going to give it to them? Wasn't the council going to decide?
Yes, the council did decide, and they agreed with your recommendation that the agencies should be able to draw down the funds, whether they completed the obligations in the contract or not. So I've sent notices to all the agencies that still have money in their annual grants and in their spring special project grants. And once we receive reimbursement requests, we'll pay out the remaining funds.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else have any thoughts on the survey at this time?
I had a quick question about the actual administration of the survey. Is it going to be sort of an open-ended answers, or will there be multiple choice? How is it planned to work? My expectation is there won't be a huge number of agencies responding, and so free form should be fine, but curious to what others think.
Well, I think on the questions we had to this point, which weren't finalized yet, we had a few that were just kind of simple yes or no, but most of them asked for them to expound on specifics so we get a little more feedback and have a little better understanding of some of their needs. So I would agree with you on that, Steve.
So, am I unmuted?
No, I can hear you.
Okay, so maybe because of COVID-19, maybe it is something to delay a while. And one thing I thought of too was, I mean, everything seems to be on a fiscal calendar, but the questions, you know, relate to a annual calendar year.
That's true. That's something that Troy had brought up last meeting.
Okay.
I think we're going to try to address that, but we have to stay on the city's fiscal calendar, so it creates a few challenges. We'll have to be a little creative on that, I think.
Okay, that's all I had.
And I guess to Deanne's point, my thought would be that we postpone and push back the survey a couple months at least till we kind of see how the fall is going to shape out. But we need, I don't know what anybody else wants to do or how you feel about that.
I think that we'd be okay delaying as well, particularly because the nature of these questions, I mean, they're very important questions, but I think the answers are going to be very different if people are thinking along the lines of COVID-19 rather than thinking about a typical fiscal year, I guess. And that's really what the point of the survey was, to figure out kind of on a standard fiscal year what things look like, what needs to be improved. And I think that this might just make it more confusing and we get less of the data we were actually seeking to try to help the organizations. That's my 2 cents.
I would agree. Well, we don't have a formal presentation, so I don't know if we need to vote or just decide to push it back until September, October, and see how things are looking then.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of pushing it back. I'd also kind of would like to, it's good to have it in one place, but a couple of the questions are exactly from the annual grants, like how many do you estimate your events reach and how many are involved in your productions? I mean, that's stuff that we technically could just pull. And so I don't think we're looking for any big results from that. And so we might want to substitute or add in 2 questions in addition to that. I don't know, because we kind of know those 2. So they're kind of just getting the data in one place. I don't know.
I agree. I mean, Steve was leaving and he had to hurry and finalize this. And he had a lot of other things on his plate as COVID was starting to take place, and he's very busy over at Mary Greeley. So
oh yeah,
tried enough to send it along, and obviously it's a rough first draft. So if we should we put this on like September's calendar, Brian, or agenda, and just decide to take a look at it then, and we can assign 1 or 2 people to polish it up and improve some of the questions if we need to make them more timely at that point.
Yeah, that would be fine. I can put a reminder out there to put it back on the agenda in November, did you say?
Do we want to wait that long? I think maybe September.
Oh, September. Sorry, I misheard you.
Yeah, well, we can at least look at it in September. We may not do it that quickly, but I think over the summer, it's probably kind of a moot point. Any other thoughts on the survey? All right. Important meeting dates coming up. Our next meeting will be June 1st, 5 o'clock, and I'm guessing it will also be via Zoom or whatever here. That we'll be pulling together yet then. And the City Council Arts Workshop is rescheduled for September 15th. And that's something you want to try and be in attendance if you can, because we're going to try to work on some alliances and we may have a little better idea how COVID's going to impact city revenues, which obviously impacts us and all the arts. So make sure you jot that down on your calendar. Any other thoughts, comments, concerns?
I guess I would just like to publicly thank the City Council for acknowledging our request in the midst of a budget deficit themselves. I think that's really important. So
I would agree. In fact, Brian, you should put that in the minutes that Troy motioned and we all seconded that. And if there's nothing else, I move we adjourn the meeting. And I'll pound my stapler again, since I don't have a gavel. Thank you, everybody, and stay safe, okay?
Thanks, everyone.